I want to talk about something that quietly hits thousands of retirees every year, and most of them have no idea it's happening until they open their tax bill. It's called the Tax Torpedo. And no, it's not some Wall Street conspiracy, it's just a rule buried deep in the tax code that almost nobody explains to you. Not when you're signing up for your 401k. Not when you file for Social Security. Not ever. Here's the short version. The way retirement income is structured, one small reasonable decision like pulling a few $1,000s from your IRA can suddenly make a large chunk of your Social Security taxable. Money you weren't expecting to owe taxes on. Today I'm walking through exactly how it works, who it hits hardest, and 3 things you can actually do about it. Let's go. So first, how does the IRS measure your income in retirement? Most people assume it's simple. You add up what you earn, you pay taxes on that. But for Social Security there's a separate calculation. It's called combined income. And it works like this. You take your adjusted gross income, add any tax-exempt interest, and then add 50% of your total Social Security benefits. That last part, half of your Social Security money you paid into for your entire working life, gets counted as income when the IRS decides whether to tax you. And here's the part that genuinely surprised me when I first looked into this. These thresholds were set in 1984. They have never been adjusted for inflation. Not once in 42 years. A house in 1984 cost around $80,000. Gas was under $1. The whole economy was completely different. But the government is still using those exact same dollar amounts today to decide whether you're wealthy enough to get penalized. Think about that for a second. 1984, 42 years ago. And nobody in Congress has touched these numbers since. So what are the actual thresholds? Let me put them on screen because I want you to see how low they are. If you're a single filer and your combined income is between $25,000 and $34,000, up to 50% of your Social Security becomes taxable. If it goes above $34,000, that number jumps to 85%. For married couples filing jointly, between $32,000 and $44,000, 50%. Above $44,000, 85%. That $44,000 ceiling, for 2 people, in today's economy, that's not wealthy, that's just getting by. Let me walk through a real example. We'll call him John. John is 67. He gets $24,000 a year from Social Security. And at some point he needs $5,000 from his traditional IRA. Maybe it's a car repair, maybe a medical bill, something unexpected. John knows he's in the 12% tax bracket, so he does the math in his head. 12% of $5,000? That's $600. He figures, I can work with that. But here's what John doesn't know. When he makes that withdrawal, it pushes his combined income past the threshold. And suddenly, an extra $4,250 of his Social Security becomes taxable. John isn't being taxed on $5,000 anymore. He's being taxed on $9,250. He expected a $600 tax bill. He got one for over $1,100. And for people in the 22% bracket, it can get even steeper. Effective rates above 40% on a single IRA withdrawal. Not because you did anything wrong, just because of where that money lands in the formula. So, what do you actually do about it? Strategy number 1. Roth conversions. Before you claim Social Security. Traditional IRAs and 401k's are taxed as ordinary income every time you pull money out. That feeds directly into combined income. Roth IRAs are different. Withdrawals are completely tax-free, and critically, they do not count toward combined income at all. The formula doesn't see them, so if you can convert some of your traditional retirement savings into a Roth in the years before you start collecting Social Security, yes, you'll pay taxes on the conversion now, but you're paying them at a rate you can plan for on your own timeline. Once your benefits start, your taxable income drops. Your Social Security stays protected. It's not a magic trick, it's just doing the math early, instead of getting surprised later. Strategy number 2. Qualified charitable distributions. And this one is specifically for people 70 and a half and older, who are already taking required minimum distributions. The problem with RMDs is simple. They count as income, which means every year they push up your combined income and potentially trigger the torpedo on repeat. Here's a concrete example. Say you've been giving $10,000 a year to your church. Right now you're probably doing it like this. Your RMD hits your account, you pay income tax on it, and then you write a check to the church from whatever's left. You're being taxed on money that was never really yours to keep. A QCD fixes this. You call your IRA custodian and you tell them, send $10,000 directly to the church. It satisfies your RMD requirement, but it never appears as income on your tax return. The formula never sees it. Same donation, same cause. You just stopped paying a tax on money you were giving away anyway. Up to $105,000 a year qualifies. Strategy number 3, and this one doesn't require converting anything or setting up new accounts. It just requires a little intention. The torpedo is a threshold problem. The damage happens when you accidentally spike past the line. So if you know you need a large purchase in retirement, consider splitting that IRA withdrawal across 2 calendar years instead of 1. You stay under the limit both years rather than blowing through it once. Same idea with your income sources. If you have a taxable brokerage account alongside your IRA, you can be strategic about which one you draw from in a given year, depending on where you stand relative to the threshold. Most people don't do this because nobody ever sat them down and said, here's the map, here are the lines, here's how to stay on the right side of them. Now you have it. So to recap, the tax torpedo is just an old rule, written in 1984 and never updated, that catches people off guard when they're trying to make smart decisions with their own money. 3 moves to protect yourself. 1. Convert to Roth before you start collecting. 2. Use qualified charitable distributions if you're taking RMDs and giving to charity anyway. 3. Plan your withdrawals so you're not crossing the threshold by accident. None of this requires a finance degree. It just requires knowing what you're working with. If this was useful, share it with someone who's getting close to retirement. This is the kind of thing that makes a real difference if you catch it early enough. I'm George. See you in the next one.